1. Introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove, and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary. Episode 57 DFA, March 8, 2025. In Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene promotes Measles Parties for children. In episode 57 DFA 1A, United States, Washington, D.C. Science, Politics, and Anxiety Mix at Rally under Lincoln Memorial. 1B, United States question to ChatGPT. What is the latest news about heat pump rebates in American states through the HERE program? RAWSEP View. The next states to join the heat pump rebate program are Minnesota, Colorado, and Illinois. 1C, United States question to ChatGPT. How many federal government employees have Elon Musk and DOGE fired as of March 8, 2025? 1D, United States question to ChatGPT. What is the latest news about Trump executive actions? 1E, United States question to ChatGPT. Can you fact-check the Trump address to Congress on March 4, 2025? 1F, United States question to ChatGPT. Has the Meidas touch increased its viewership recently? 1G, United States question to ChatGPT. What is the latest news about change in network news anchors and reporters? 2. Georgia Marjorie Taylor Greene promotes Measles Parties for children. 3. Germany question to ChatGPT. Please explain for the layperson the reason for bond route after Germany announced intentions to seek more financing for military support for Ukraine. 4. European countries and Germany question to ChatGPT. What countries were affected by the German bond route? Main content. 1A, United States, Washington, D.C. Science, Politics, and Anxiety Mix at Rally under Lincoln Memorial. Thousands of protesters gathered in Washington for Stand Up for Science, a rally in response to Trump federal funding and job cuts. RAWSEP View. Dr. Francis Collins, Abraham Lincoln Euclid, and ordinary United States scientists were the stars of the gatherings. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, March 8, 2025. Shortly before noon on Friday, Dr. Francis Collins, the former director of the National Institutes of Health, stood on the steps below the Lincoln Memorial tuning his acoustic guitar with a double helix of DNA winding down the neck and pearl inlay. Dr. Collins, a biomedical researcher renowned for leading the Human Genome Project in the 1990s, had steered the NIH through 3 presidencies into 2021 and continued working at the agency until his abrupt retirement a week ago. Now he was a headline speaker for Stand Up for Science, a rally to protest the Trump drastic cuts to the federal workforce and to federally funded science. The crowd had peaked at 5,000 in 2017. Tens of thousands gathered on the Washington Mall for the March for Science. The collective mood in 2017 was as much perplexity as defiance at the Trump suggestions that America could be made greater by greatly reducing the Environmental Protection Agency and perhaps never mentioning climate change ever again. This 2025 crowd was met by a stone Abraham Lincoln in his chair. The organizers may not have been aware that Lincoln, the 16th United States president, was a champion of science. Lincoln established the National Academy of Sciences in 1863, and an avid astronomer, often visited the Naval Observatory. Early in his career, Lincoln often carried a volume of Euclid under his arm. He studied the argumentative logic of Euclid the mathematician to hone his own as a lawyer. Dr. Francis Collins invoked the Gettysburg Address of the people, by the people, for the people, and noted that it applied to taxpayer-funded science too. We have to sing about this, he said. Poster images, the scientific SOS speaker, the Muppet Lab assistant, and cancer. Not my funding, fund science, defund DOGE. Some catchy, make America think again, no brains, no gain. Some clever and evidence, we trust. Some resigned, I cannot believe I am marching for facts. Several red girls just want to have funding for Science Dr. Collins, now at the microphone in the sunshine, joined the crowd to celebrate the achievements of science over decades in bettering the human condition and to advocate for strong public support at a time when serious threats of harm are occurring. He invoked the Gettysburg Address of the people, by the people, for the people, and noted that it applied to taxpayer-funded science too. Several dozen Stand Up for Science rallies were held on Friday, March 7, 2025 in cities around the United States and around the world. 8,000 people attended in Berkeley, California, and Chicago. Protesters in winter coats gathered at Federal Plaza to hear Senator Richard J. Durbin, Democrat of Illinois, and other speakers. Danielle Goodman leading a chant during a Stand Up for Science rally at Dufresne Plaza in Lewiston, Maine. At Montana State University, one of 5 rallies happening across the state, several invitees declined for fear of repercussion from the state or federal government or their tenure committees. Many international students, he added, were afraid to attend after recent social media posts by Trump about cutting funding for universities, allowing illegal protests. In Washington, many protesters declined to share their names publicly for similar reasons. One woman, who wore a surgical mask and a long white lab coat with the words "Mad Scientist" on the back in red lettering, described herself only as a federally funded researcher who is trying to keep things moving forward in these challenging times. Her field was planetary science, hence her sign. Good luck getting to Mars without science. Elsewhere, 3 young women, all students, stood together with a sign that read "Science is apolitical." One said, "I should be at home doing my research, but I cannot because we might get defunded. It should not be political, but because they are making it that way, we do not have a choice." The speechifying continued through the afternoon. Bill Nye the Science Guy. Fred Upton, a former Republican representative from Michigan. Representative Bill Foster, Democrat of Illinois, and the only PhD physicist in Congress. "It is not just science that is under attack, it is facts," he said offstage. An infectious disease specialist at Johns Hopkins University, a doctoral student in geochemistry, and a TikTok communicator reminded the audience unnecessarily they conceded of the value of scientific expertise to make vaccines, accurate weather forecasts, agricultural breakthroughs, to monitor the 150+ active volcanic systems in the United States alone. From the sidelines, we saw a sign that said "Science is best done with scalpels and microscopes, not chainsaws." Those 2 bystanders had attended the 2017 march. This one felt different. It is a darker mood. 2 people in lab coats hold a large sign that says "Science makes America great." In Washington, a sign that says "NIH Science makes America great" with the Washington Monument in the background. The attendance at the rally, estimated at 5,000, did not approach that of the 2017 March for Science, but the organizers were pleased nonetheless. This is a lot sadder. The other rally felt like a rally, it actually felt like you could have impact. There is sort of a defeated feeling here. Late in the afternoon, a graduate student in psychology at Emory University found one thing her team had learned from the 2017 March for Science was that one protest is not enough. She said the previous day they had been on Capitol Hill to meet with congressmen, lay out some legislative goals, and ring the bell. "I did this because at the end of the day, I just want to do my research. I never thought of myself as an activist. That has never been part of my identity, and I am reckoning with that." The crowd had dwindled to hundreds when the last speaker, Representative Jamie Raskin, Democrat of Maryland, took the microphone around 4:15 p.m. He too invoked Lincoln as a champion of liberty and union and gave a fiery short course on the Constitution and on science as a First Amendment endeavor. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, did not speak, or maybe he did in 1860 while passing through Norwich, Connecticut. Lincoln was approached by the Reverend J.P. Gulliver, who was writing for the New York Independent. The 2 men bonded over their mutual admiration for Euclid. Gulliver said Euclid, well studied, would free the world of half its calamities by banishing half the nonsense which now deludes and curses it. Gulliver said. Lincoln laughed and replied, "I vote for Euclid." 1B United States question to ChatGPT: what is the latest news about heat pump rebates in American states through the HERE program? RAWSEP View. The next states to join the heat pump rebate program are Minnesota, Colorado, and Illinois. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, ChatGPT, said as of March 8, 2025, the home electrification and appliance rebate HERE program is active in several U.S. states, providing rebates for energy-efficient appliances and electrification projects, particularly targeting low to moderate income households. The availability and specifics of these rebates vary by state. For instance, the Minnesota HERE program launched in December 2024 with rebates available until March 3, 2025. MNGOV. The Colorado program is expected to launch in the second quarter of 2025, offering rebates for heat pumps, water heaters, and other appliances with benefits up to $8,000 for eligible households. Unicolorado. Similarly, Illinois has been approved for both home efficiency rebates and home electrification and appliance rebates with incentives up to $8,000 for qualifying projects. ALLEGINCHITANGCOM. Given the dynamic nature of these programs with varying launch dates and funding availability, it is advisable to check with your state energy department or official resources for the most current information. For a comprehensive overview of HERE programs across different states, the U.S. Department of Energy STAR website provides detailed information. 1C United States question to ChatGPT: how many federal government employees have Elon Musk and DOGE fired as of March 8, 2025? Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, ChatGPT, said as of March 8, 2025, the Musk Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, has been responsible for significant reductions in the federal workforce. In February 2025, approximately 200 technologists from agencies like the General Services Administration, GSA, and the United States Digital Service, USDS, were either terminated or resigned. This action has jeopardized critical projects, including those related to public health and passport applications. Wirecom. Additionally, on February 13th, about 350 employees from the National Nuclear Security Administration, NNSA, including around 100 from the Pantex facility, were fired due to the DOGE directives. However, the majority of these firings were reversed within a day. In Wikipedia. Beyond these specific instances, the DOGE broader initiatives have led to widespread layoffs across various federal agencies. For example, the Department of Veterans Affairs laid off 1,000 employees, the Department of Health and Human Services terminated 5,200 staff members, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention dismissed 1,300 300 employees. These measures were part of a larger plan affecting probationary workers and those associated with diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in Wikipedia.org. Overall, while precise numbers are challenging to confirm due to the scale and ongoing nature of these actions, it is estimated that the DOGE efforts have led to the dismissal of several thousand federal workers as of March 8, 2025. 1D United States question to ChatGPT: what is the latest news about Trump executive actions? Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, ChatGPT, said in recent days Trump has signed several executive orders and taken actions impacting various sectors. Cost-cutting and government restructuring. Trump, in collaboration with Musk, initiated significant changes across federal agencies aimed at increasing political control and reducing spending. Notable measures include the Environmental Protection Agency now requires contract approvals for amounts exceeding $50,000. Civilian Pentagon employees face reduced travel credit card limits, now set at $1. The Transportation Security Administration union agreement was canceled, removing worker protections. These changes have led to potential layoffs in agencies such as the Department of Veterans Affairs, Internal Revenue Service, and Social Security Administration. Some measures, like denying Social Security numbers to children born in May, have been rescinded following public backlash. AP News.com student loan forgiveness restrictions. Trump signed an executive order barring student loan forgiveness for public servants involved in improper activities. Additionally, he announced the cancellation of $400 million in federal funds to Columbia University due to alleged failures in protecting students from anti-Semitic harassment, The Guardian.com. Trade policy actions. In a move affecting U.S.-Canada relations, Trump announced reciprocal tariffs on Canadian dairy and lumber if Canada does not reduce its current rates, which he claims are 250%. This measure aims to protect American farmers and ensure fair trade practices. New York Post. Paris Agreement withdrawal. On his first day back in office, Trump signed Executive Order 14162 titled Putting America First in International Environmental Agreements, directing the immediate withdrawal of the United States from the Paris Agreement and related international climate commitments. This marks the second time the U.S. has withdrawn from the accord during a Trump presidency. In Wikipedia.org, artificial intelligence policy shift. Trump signed Executive Order 14179 titled Removing Barriers to American Leadership in Artificial Intelligence, aiming to strengthen U.S. leadership in AI by revoking certain policies and establishing a plan to promote AI development free from ideological bias or social agendas. This order rescinds a previous executive order on AI signed by former President Joe Biden. And Wikipedia.org, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. DI restrictions. Executive Order 14173, ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity, prohibits private organizations from conducting DIA employment programs for jobs created through federal contracts. This order revokes parts of the Equal Employment Opportunity Order from 1960. 5 concerning federal contracting jobs and mandates that federal agencies review the hiring practices of businesses with government contracts. 1 United States question to ChatGPT: can you fact-check the Trump address to Congress on March 4, 2025? Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, ChatGPT, said the Trump address to Congress on March 4, 2025 included several statements that have been fact-checked and found to be misleading or false. Economic performance claim. He asserted that he inherited a disastrous economy, plagued by high inflation. Fact: at the time of his inauguration, inflation had decreased significantly from the peaks experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic, and unemployment rates were well below historical averages. App Newscom. Social Security benefits claim. Trump alleged that millions of Social Security benefits were being paid to deceased individuals over the age of 100. Fact: while outdated records can cause discrepancies, existing procedures are in place to verify beneficiaries over 100 years old, making widespread fraud unlikely. App Newscom. Foreign aid and tariffs claim. He claimed the U.S. had provided $350 billion in aid to Ukraine since 2022, surpassing the European contribution of $100 billion. Fact: congressional records indicate U.S. aid to Ukraine since 2022 is approximately $175 billion, with European nations contributing around $140 billion. Challenging the disparity, suggested The Guardian. Claimed Trump praised tariffs as beneficial to the U.S. economy. Fact: most economists view tariffs as detrimental to economic growth, often leading to increased prices for consumers and strained international relations. App Newscom. Space exploration claim. He declared ambitions to plant the U.S. flag on Mars. 1F United States question to ChatGPT: has the Meidas touch increased its viewership recently? Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, ChatGPT, said yes, Meidas touch has experienced a significant increase in viewership recently. As of February 2025, their YouTube channel had surpassed 4 million subscribers. Hypothetorcum. In the last 30 days leading up to February 18, 2025, the channel gained 460,000 subscribers and accumulated approximately 277 million views, averaging about 92 million views daily. SOCLCHRTSIO. This surge in both subscribers and viewership highlights the growing influence of the Meidas touch and its reach in the digital media landscape. 1G United States question to ChatGPT: what is the latest news about change in network news anchors and reporters? Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, ChatGPT, said recent shifts among network news anchors and reporters have significantly altered the media landscape. NBC News. The Lester Holt transition. After a decade anchoring NBC Nightly News, Lester Holt announced he would step down following the 2024 elections. transitioning to a full-time role at Dateline Nipostcom. Tom Lamas appointed NBC. Named Tom Lamas as the new anchor for NBC Nightly News with the transition expected in the summer of 2025. Lamas brings experience from roles at Telemundo NBC and ABC News Nipostcom CBS News. The Norah O'Donnell departure. Norah O'Donnell stepped down as anchor of the CBS Evening News after the 2024 elections, remaining with CBS News as a senior correspondent. In Wikipedia, co-anchor format introduced. CBS revamped its evening news by introducing a multi-anchor format with John Dickerson and Maurice Dubois co-anchoring. The retooled program emphasizes in-depth reporting and features contributions from other CBS journalists. In Wikipedia, CNN Morning Show changes. CNN This Morning underwent several transformations, including anchor rotations and a shift to a 1-hour format. Audie Cornish currently hosts the 5 a.m. hour, while Casey Hunt leads the arena in the afternoon. In Wikipedia, anchor departures. Phil Mattingly, formerly the CNN chief White House correspondent, was promoted to chief domestic correspondent. Jim Acosta left CNN after declining a midnight slot, indicating plans for new ventures. In Wikipedia, MSNBC programming overhauls. MSNBC has made significant changes, including expanding the Nicole Wallace Show to 2 hours and moving the Chuck Todd MTP Daily to an earlier time slot. The network also restructured weekend programming, introducing new shows and adjusting anchor roles. In Wikipedia, these developments underscore the dynamic nature of network news with anchors and reporters transitioning roles, networks, or departing, reflecting the industry and its ongoing evolution. 2. Georgia Marjorie Taylor Greene promotes Measles Parties for children. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Alternate March 7, 2025. Amid measles outbreaks in Texas and New Mexico that have killed 2 unvaccinated people, including a healthy 6-year-old, while infected hundreds, U.S. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, RGA, is promoting the long-denounced practice of exposing children to them. Potentially deadly virus at so-called measles parties until the anti-vax movement promoted by activists, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Trump highly controversial Secretary of Health and Human Services, and far-right extremists often aligned with the Trump MAGA movement, took hold in the United States, fueling a significant drop in vaccination rates. Measles was considered to have been eliminated in 2000. The 2 measles-related deaths, the BBC reports, are jarring to many in a country that before last week had not recorded anyone killed by measles since 2015. The 2015 death was the first one attributed to measles in the U.S. since 2003. Less than 3 full months into the year, the number of reported measles infections is rapidly approaching the total for all of 2024, one of the most contagious diseases on the planet, according to Johns Hopkins University. 9 out of 10 unimmunized children who are in contact with an infected person will contract the virus. The virus can linger in the air for about 2 hours after a person with measles has left the room. Related video. Measles outbreaks spreading to more states. Fox 13. Seattle measles is about 6 times more contagious than the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Meanwhile, the anti-vaccine movement, championed by activists like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Trump controversial Secretary of Health and Human Services, and far-right extremists often aligned with his MAGA movement, has gained traction in the United States, leading to a significant decline in vaccination rates in children and adults. The rise of social media has helped spread anti-vaccine misinformation and disinformation, despite numerous studies proving vaccines are safe and effective, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC). In addition to the well-known rash and red spots, measles can cause extreme fever up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, conjunctivitis, and lead to hospitalization, pneumonia, encephalitis, and death. About 1 child out of every 1,000 who get measles will develop encephalitis, swelling of the brain. This can lead to convulsions and leave the child deaf or with intellectual disability. The CDC reports nearly 1 to 3 of every 1,000 children who become infected with measles will die from respiratory and neurologic complications. CDC also reports in rare cases measles can lead to long-term complications, including subacute sclerosing panencephalitis (SSB), a very rare but fatal disease of the central nervous system. It results from a measles virus infection acquired earlier in life. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, however, is promoting measles and chickenpox parties. The Georgia Republican, who has become very influential in Congress, sitting on top committees and subcommittees, chose to ignore the science they use to have measles parties. Basically get all the kids together so they all catch it and develop immunity. Greene declared on social media, as first reported by Meidas Touch News. Then, when I was a kid, they did the same thing with chickenpox. Now they demonize parents who refuse to vaccinate their kids. Greene also reposted this video that appears to try to make measles parties a kind of feel-good, fun retro event. The video shows a portion of the 1970s hit sitcom The Brady Bunch, then cuts to an episode of the television crime drama Law and Order SVU last week in Texas, where about 200 have been infected. A health official is speaking out, urging parents to get their children vaccinated and not hold measles parties. Dr. Ron Cook, chief health officer for the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center in Lubbock, urged families to avoid such gatherings and instead get vaccinated. The Dallas Morning News reported last week, we cannot predict who is going to do poorly with measles, being hospitalized, potentially get pneumonia or encephalitis, or potentially pass away from this. Dr. Cook reportedly said it is a foolish thing to go have measles parties on social media. Several medical experts responded to Greene, urging parents to not hold or allow their children to attend measles parties. Jared Ryan Sears, who writes The Pragmatic Humanist, mocked the assertions of Greene they used to put cocaine in Coca-Cola. Doctors did not use to wash their hands and sterilize instruments before surgery. People used to live in iron lungs because there was not a polio vaccine. We learn and apply that knowledge to be healthier and save lives. It is not a tricky concept, Marge, he noted. Watch the video above or at this link. 3. Germany question to ChatGPT, please explain for the layman the the reason for bond rout after Germany announced intentions to seek more financing for military support for Ukraine. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization ChatGPT said when Germany announced its plans to seek more financing for military support to Ukraine, it caused a bond rout because it raised concerns in financial markets about the potential increase in government debt. Let me break this down into simpler terms. Government bonds. When a government needs money, it can borrow by issuing bonds. A bond is basically a loan where investors lend money to the government in exchange for interest payments over time and the promise to repay the principal amount at the end of the term of the bond. The German announcement. Germany, like many countries, had been funding various government projects, including military aid to Ukraine. When Germany announced it would need to raise more money for additional military support, it implied that they would likely need to issue more bonds or take on more debt to fund these efforts. Concerns about debt. When investors hear that a government is increasing its borrowing, they sometimes get concerned about whether the country can afford to repay its debts or if too much debt could lead to economic instability. In this case, investors may have feared that increased borrowing by Germany could negatively affect its economy or its ability to manage finances in the long run. Bond prices drop. When more bonds are issued, their supply increases. If the demand does not match the new supply, bond prices can drop. Since bonds are typically seen as a safe investment, a sudden drop in their value indicates that investors are nervous, often because they believe the risk associated with holding those bonds is higher interest rates. If the prices of bonds fall, the yields interest rates on those bonds go up to attract new buyers. This makes borrowing more expensive for the government and can have ripple effects throughout the economy, leading to higher borrowing costs for everyone. In summary, the bond rout happened because investors became worried that the increased borrowing of Germany to finance military aid could lead to higher debt levels and economic risks, which caused bond prices to fall and yields to rise. The German bond rout, which refers to the significant sell-off of German government bonds that occurred in 2021 and 2022, had a ripple effect on the financial markets of several countries, particularly in Europe. The sell-off was mainly due to expectations of rising interest rates and inflation, which led to a decline in bond prices. Canada. Question to ChatGPT: what is the latest news about Canadian actions in response to United States tariffs? Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization ChatGPT said in response to U.S. tariffs imposed in early 2025, Canada has taken several significant actions affecting trade relations. Suspension of imports from specific U.S. facilities. On March 7, 2025, Canada suspended imports from the largest U.S. pork processing plant in Tar Heel, North Carolina, named Smithfield Foods. This suspension targeting specific offal shipments was a direct reaction to the escalating trade tensions and U.S. tariffs. RUTRSCOM imposition of retaliatory tariffs following the U.S. announcement of 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. Canada imposed its own 25% tariffs on a range of U.S. products. These measures aim to counteract the U.S. tariffs and protect Canadian economic interests. Trade restrictions on U.S. alcoholic beverages. Provincial leaders in Canada have initiated measures to restrict imports of U.S. alcoholic beverages. For instance, Ontario Premier Doug Ford ordered the Liquor Control Board of Ontario to end sales of American alcohol, and the Premier François Legault of Quebec directed the Société d'Alcools du Québec to remove all American products from its shelves. In Wikipedia, or consideration of broader trade measures, Canadian officials have indicated plans to implement additional trade restrictions, including export controls on critical minerals and energy products, as well as potential bans on American companies bidding for Canadian government contracts. These measures are being considered to further counteract U.S. tariffs and assert Canadian trade interests for European countries and Germany. Question to ChatGPT: what countries were affected by the German bond rout? Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization ChatGPT said here are the key countries and regions that were affected by the German bond rout. Eurozone countries. As Germany is the largest economy in the Eurozone, its bond market is considered a benchmark for the entire region. When bonds experienced a rout, it directly impacted other countries of the Eurozone and their bond markets. Bond yields in countries such as France, Italy, Spain, and the Netherlands also rose in response to the sell-off. Italy, Italian government bonds BPs were particularly affected due to the perceived risk premium over German bonds. Italy, with a higher debt burden, saw its bond yields rise as investors adjusted expectations for the Eurozone monetary policy and economic stability. Spain, like Italy, Spain experienced rising bond yields. Spanish government bonds bonos faced higher yields, reflecting investor concerns about rising inflation and the potential tightening of monetary policy by the European Central Bank ECB. France, although the bond market of France is more stable compared to countries like Italy or Spain, the French government bonds OATs also saw yields rise in response to the broader sell-off in German bonds. United States, the German bond rout had an indirect effect on global markets, including the U.S. bond market. Rising interest rates and inflation concerns in the Eurozone contributed to global bond sell-offs affecting U.S. treasuries as well. The impact was more noticeable in European markets. Emerging market economies, particularly those with high debt levels denominated in foreign currencies, have felt the impact of rising bond yields. The increase in global interest rates could raise borrowing costs and lead to capital outflows. The German bond rout affected the bond market of Germany, but also led to a rise in yields across the Eurozone, with effects on countries with higher debt or perceived risk premiums such as Italy and Spain. The global bond markets, including U.S. treasuries, were also impacted, though the effect was more pronounced in Europe.
1. Introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree. But it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom. The Eco-Design Wood Stove and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.